What are the most important pawn structure considerations in the middle game? When it comes to chess, understanding pawn structure is essential for navigating the middle game effectively. So, what should you keep in mind about pawn structures during this phase of the game? Let's break it down. First, consider pawn weaknesses and defects. Even a small issue, like having isolated or doubled pawns, can lead to long-term problems. These weaknesses can become targets for your opponent's pieces and limit your own piece activity. For instance, a backward pawn on an open file can be a constant liability that needs defending. Next, think about pawn chains and their direction. The way your pawns are lined up can guide your strategy. If your pawn chain points toward the king side, you should look for pawn breaks in that direction to activate your pieces and create space. Now let's talk about controlling open and semi-open files. Open files, which have no pawns, and semi-open files, which have pawns from only one side, are vital for your rooks. By controlling these files, you can infiltrate your opponent's position and apply pressure on weak pawns. This is often a key goal in the middle game. Another important aspect is pawn majorities and minority attacks. If you have more pawns on one side of the board, you can create a passed pawn or launch a minority attack. This strategy involves advancing fewer pawns against a larger structure to create weaknesses in your opponent's camp. Isolated and passed pawns also play a significant role. Isolated pawns lack support from adjacent pawns and can become weaknesses. However, they can open lines for your pieces. Passed pawns, on the other hand, have no opposing pawns blocking their advance. They can be powerful assets, especially in the endgame, but in the middle game, their effectiveness relies on your ability to support their advance. Pawn structure imbalances like doubled or isolated pawns can dictate your strategic plans. If you have a weakness, your focus may shift to piece activity to compensate. Conversely, if you have a strong pawn center or a passed pawn, your plan might involve advancing these pawns with piece support. Lastly, consider the harmony between your pawns and pieces. A weak pawn structure can still be effective if it supports strong piece activity. Conversely, a solid pawn formation can be ineffective if it restricts your pieces. Avoiding irreversible pawn structure damage is also crucial. Moves that create isolated or doubled pawns should be carefully considered, as these weaknesses can be exploited by your opponent throughout the game. In practical terms, understanding these pawn structure considerations helps you decide where to focus your attack or defense. It guides your pawn breaks and how to coordinate your pieces effectively. Mastering these concepts can lead to better middle game planning and improved chances of converting advantages into wins.